Hi there and welcome to Capital View. Senior Congress leader Jairam Ramesh was Environment Minister in the UPA from 2009 to 2011, and in a new book, Green Signals, he's written about his journey of someone who used to be someone who believed in high growth but now believes in balancing high growth with the need for ecological sustainability. To talk about his new book as well as other issues, Jairam Ramesh is now joining me. Thank you so much for being with us on Capital View. You talk very candidly about how you were someone who believed in high growth as a mantra for all India's evils, but now you have come to the view that it has to be balanced with ecological sustainability. Tell us a little bit about your journey.
Well, I was an enviro agnostic. I was not an atheist as far as environmental issues were concerned, but neither was I an evangelist. I was an agnostic at best on environmental issues. But after 26 months and seeing all across the country the devastating consequences of unbridled economic growth without paying attention to air, water, land, forests, mountains, rivers, biodiversity, I transformed, my own thinking evolved.
Are politicians generally unaware of this issue?
No, I think many politicians are. I think politicians, because they are dealing with daily issues, livelihood issues of the people, are more sensitive than governments. Unfortunately, governments are single-minded in their pursuit of economic growth. And I think that single-minded pursuit is what leads to this imbalance. Why is ecology important? Why is environment important? And that's what I've really tried to highlight in the book, that this is not an elitist pastime. It's not a middle class or upper middle class urban pastime. Environment in India is a public health issue. Environment in India is a livelihood issue. Environment in India is a climate change issue, and that affects all of us on a day-to-day basis. So far from being a lifestyle issue like it is in the West, in India, it's a bread and butter issue. What I try to do, honestly, transparently, navigate a middle path. Avoid enviro fundamentalism, avoid growth fundamentalism, and try to work out the middle path.
And what have you achieved at the end of it? Do you feel, in your opinion, what have you achieved in your stewardship of the environment ministry?
Today is a mainstream issue. It's not a marginal or a residual issue. Today, people are talking of climate change, people are talking of pollution, people are talking of coal mining, people are talking of protecting of rivers.
Did you have a problem with the corporates? Because you write about how you met the Hindalco representative, how you met Kumaramangalam Birla, how you met Shashi Ruia, and how there was some pressure from them to clear the coal mining. So do you feel that the corporate citizen is not environmentally conscious?
There was never any antagonism. I mean, the job of an industrialist is to put up industry, the job of the environment minister is to ensure that that industry is put up in an environmentally sustainable manner, and I think industry also would like that objective to be fulfilled. Now, in that process, there may be divergent viewpoints, divergent perceptions. The time frame in which an industrialist is operating may be 3 years or 4 years, whereas a time frame for an environmental minister may be 8 years or 10 years. But I didn't have conflict in that sense.
So, do you feel this government in particular is negating environmental concerns?
Well, this government is very aggressive and very ambitious on solar energy, which is very good. We announced a target for 20,000 megawatts by the year 2022, whereas this government has announced a target for 100,000 megawatts, and I welcome that. It's putting a lot of emphasis on solar energy. But on the other hand, it got this TSR Subramaniam committee report. That really is a recipe for weakening the edifice of environmental regulation, environmental laws, environmental rules, in the name of easing business, the cost of bringing down the cost of doing business, which I support wholeheartedly. I think some due diligence on environmental issues is being actually diluted, and that's what bothers me.
Right, that it bothers you.
Yeah, that bothers me.
What about the Land Acquisition Act? If I could just come to specifics.
So nothing to do with my book.
It's not to do with your book, but but it ties into the larger question of growth versus equity, or growth and equity.
Sure, land is required for industrialization.
Now, land is required for industrialization, but at the same time, you disapprove of the new version of the Land Acquisition Act.
Well, this is a land acquisition. Sagarika, remember, it's acquisition. It's not land purchase. So, if you want land for urbanization or for industrialization, you can still go and buy the land. from landowners. You don't have to invoke the Act. The Act is invoked only when you want to use government to acquire the land. And I don't see why land should
Why
be acquired.
Why are you opposing this Act?
Why should land be acquired for private hospitals? Why should land be acquired for private educational institutions? These are profit-making bodies making huge amounts of money. Let them go and buy the land that they want. Why do they want governments to acquire land for them?
But the government says that will create employment, that will create
sure,
stakeholders,
let them go and buy the land.
jobs.
Let them go and buy the land. Let them go and buy the land. I mean, look at its root. This is a ideological debate as well. I mean, why should government acquire land for private hospitals and private educational institutions? The standing committee, by the way, which was headed by Sumitra Mahajan, BJP MP, now Speaker of the Lok Sabha, said, under no circumstances government should acquire land for private companies, period. We modified it to say, no, okay, we still need some government acquisition for private companies and for private public partnership projects, 80% consent for private and 70% consent. Now that consent clause is being done away with. What does the social impact assessment do? It has to be done within 6 months, and the time limit is specified in the Act. And what the social impact assessment does is gives the landowners the confidence that land is being acquired for the purposes for which it is stated. Land will not be diverted. Excess land is not being acquired, because we have seen in India how you want 100 acres, you go end up acquiring 1,000 acres, and that the livelihood losers will be identified as part of the social impact assessment, because one of the cardinal principles of the 2013 Act is that not only landowners but livelihood losers, going from the Singur experience in West Bengal, the livelihood losers also get the compensation. Land is the only element of social security for millions and millions of families in this country, particularly in rural areas.
Right.
And I think government exercises draconian powers for acquisition goes against the very spirit of democracy.
Right. Let's come back to your book.
Yes, thank God.
You say that when you were negotiating on climate change conferences on India's position abroad, you were very conscious that India should be part of the solution, not the problem. Is there too much nationalism and jingoism when it comes to India's position on
India's
emissions?
position, yeah, India's position.
Do you feel that India's position is
India's
faulty?
position in most international negotiations has been moralistic. We argue from moral principles. Our style of negotiation is very often very off-putting. We are very argumentative, we are very moralistic. Well, we have to be accommodative, we have to be aware of concerns of other countries. We are now the third largest emitter of greenhouse gases. Admittedly, the gap between us and the top two, China and the US, is very large. China is 29%, US is 16%, and we are still at 6%. But we are growing. There's a lot of concern at that the net addition is coming from countries like India. We shouldn't use domestic poverty as an excuse, as a parda for not doing things.
But isn't that a reality?
Of course it's a reality.
We have to move millions of people out of poverty.
We must move. We must move that, but the world is, as I said, 400 million people we are going to add over the next 35 years. I mean, reproductive profligacy should not become an excuse for not taking responsible action.
I'm going to ask you some questions entirely unrelated to the book. And then we're going to come back and talk about the central dilemma of your book, which I thought again was very interesting, which is that it's not growth versus environment, it's about following the rules.
Yeah, sure.
But let me just quickly do the diversionary questions first. Where's Rahul Gandhi?
I wish I knew, but I'm sure he'll come back, and I'm sure he will provide rejuvenated leadership to the Congress party.
But what's the way forward for the Congress party?
The way forward is to rebuild the party, recover from the electoral debacles we've had in the last 1 year, build the party from the bottom, the grassroots, give new faces, credible faces in states, bring newer generation of leaders from different sections of society, I mean, we have a work cut out for us.
Is this completely the wrong time for Rahul Gandhi to go missing?
Well, I don't know where he's gone, and all I know is that he'll come back. And all I know is that he'll come back determined to provide, firm, decisive leadership to the Congress party at its moment of gravest crisis.
He's ready to take over.
To the extent that I know and I can sense, I'm sure he will take over.
Do you feel that you're being edged out because you're losing the rural poor to the Aam Aadmi Party and the Hindu middle
The
class
Aam
has
Aadmi
gone?
Party hijacked
and
the Congress. Arvind Kejriwal and Yogendra Yadav, we used to be in touch with them, and the issues of the Aam Aadmi Party are the issues of the Congress. And the BJP's vote share didn't fall in 2014 compared to the last assembly election. It fell compared to the Lok Sabha election, but we lost 15% of our vote share, 15%. We came down from 25 to 10 in the last 1 year, and that voted, I think, en masse for the Aam Aadmi Party. So the Aam Aadmi Party in many ways hijacked our agenda.
Right. And does the Congress have to now think beyond the Gandhi family?
The Congress Party, I think, is a blend of experienced leaders, young leaders in state after state, and we have done very well in the local body elections in Rajasthan. We've done very well in the local body elections in Madhya Pradesh.
The Gandhi family,
we have done the local body elections in Chhattisgarh. I think Mr. Rahul Gandhi has definite ideas on how to turn around the Congress, and I think he will be given a chance. He should be given a chance.
But is something missing? Because we're sensing that that you're still licking your wounds, that you haven't bounced back.
It was a deep wound. It was a very deep wound. The 2014 was not an electoral defeat. It was a cataclysmic electoral debacle. It was not even a debacle. It was a cataclysmic debacle. So yes, it was psychological. For 2 months I was in a state of shock myself. So yes, it was psychologically very, very demoralizing.
You said recently that the Congress is staring at the abyss of irrelevance and facing
Well,
an existential crisis.
if we continue to losing elections the way we do, the way we have done in the recent past, states that have traditionally been the citadels of the Congress, Maharashtra, Haryana, then we are, and Delhi. We were in power for 15 years in Delhi. We are out of Delhi. So we have our backs to the wall, and we really now have a very stupendous task ahead of us. And it's not going to be a 1 year task. It's not going to be a 1 year task or a 2 year task. And I think Mr. Rahul Gandhi is well aware this could well be a 10 year task. To rebuild the party.
But are you staring at irrelevance? Because you said that.
Well, we are irrelevant in Tamil Nadu. No. We seem to be irrelevant in Bihar. We seem to be irrelevant in UP. Suddenly we become irrelevant in Delhi. So, we have to be very careful. As I said, there is no need for us to be irrelevant, because I think people still want the Congress. People have goodwill for the Congress. Maybe 10-year anti-incumbency was very overwhelming, and 15-year anti-incumbency. But in Tamil Nadu we've been out of power since 1967. In UP we've been out of power since 1989. In Bihar we've been out of power since 1989. So in Gujarat we've been out of power almost for now 15 years, 16, 17 years. So we really have to. Madhya Pradesh we've been out of power for
what's going
almost
wrong?
12 years now, 13 years. So, being out of power is not, it's what I'm saying is a political party doesn't exist only to win elections. The Congress should not be only an election machine. It has to be a political party in the sense that it is relating to the people and identifying itself with people's hopes, aspirations, expectations, fears, and so on. But ultimately, we are not a band of sannyasis either. No, we are not a sannyasi organization. We are a political party, and the job of a political party is to come to political power. So we have to have that fire in us. That it's not just for NGO-ish activities that we are existing, important as they may be, to articulate people's concerns and so on. But ultimately, we have to capture the levers of political power and use that power for the welfare of the people, not for private aggrandizement, but for the welfare of the people.
Then, do you believe? What's going wrong? What's going wrong?
Well, yeah, it's the political competition is intensified. Other people have hijacked the Congress's agenda. The success of the Congress party lies in the fact that other political parties are following the Congress model, which is the inclusive model, bring people together, you know, and the Akali Dal giving tickets to non-Sikhs in Punjab. That's the success of the Congress model. The BJP giving tickets to Christians in Goa is a success of the Congress model. So, in many ways, other parties have taken over the old Congress's umbrella, rainbow coalition, include all sections of society. The Bahujan Samaj Party, you know.
The Sarvajan Samaj.
The Bahujan Samaj, that's the Congress plus, the Congress ideology, what Rajni Kothari used to call the Congress system. So the Congress system has got internalized in other political parties. And now it's for the Congress to rediscover the virtues of the Congress system. You know.
Right. And I remember the slogan, Congress ka haath Aam Aadmi ke saath.
Well, look at that word Aam Aadmi, that itself got usurped. I mean, that itself got hijacked.
That was coined by you, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, a lot of us. There's no intellectual property rights here, but yeah, Congress ka haath Aam Aadmi ke saath. Yeah, absolutely. That's another good example that, you know, we said that the poor are important, but there's also an aspirational class. There's also an aspirational class who wants to improve their standard of living, and we need to relate to that. But the Aam Aadmi Party then went away with it, you know.
They just took it away from you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's take a short break at this point and come back with lots more with Jairam Ramesh. Welcome to Capital View. We're talking to former Environment Minister Jairam Ramesh on his new book, Green Signals, and also talking about a range of other issues. So, the other point you make in your book, which I thought was very interesting, was that you said, let's not talk about it in terms of growth versus environment. It's just a matter of following the laws.
Yeah.
And there are laws, they have to be followed.
No, also, you know, we take great pride in passing laws and take greater pride in bypassing them, you know. So, you have to enforce the laws. But more than that, what I would like to say is that this growth versus environment, everybody knows that we need to bring a balance, right? But in the process of bringing a balance, there are contradictions, there are complexities, there are conflicts. And how do you manage this contradictions, conflicts and complexities?
How do you manage it?
Yeah, you manage it through a democratic process, you manage it through a consultative process, and you manage it, as I tried to explain in the book, manage it by making the trade-offs explicit. Bring the trade-offs on the table, you know, and not always will the choice fall in favor of the yes category. Not always. Sometimes you will have to have the courage to say, no, I don't want this. This is going to be detrimental to India's long-term ecological interests. Be honest. Go through the process. Do what the law enjoins you to do. Why do you want to take shortcuts? This is what I used to tell my friends in industry. Why do you want to take shortcuts? Do it because it's in your interest. This government is far more sensitive to think tanks rather than social movements. This government is far more sensitive to government appointed committees rather than social activists and NGOs. This government is far more sensitive to the voices of business rather than the voices of people who are being affected. So to that extent, you know, they are, I would say, less sensitive to the voices of the people. The space for criticism, the space for dissent, the space for an alternative point of view, which I wanted to expand, which is really the leitmotif in this book, that is now being shrunk systematically by this government. That's what is worrisome. So we will become what Farid Zakaria once said of, you know, he coined a phrase, very nice phrase Farid Zakaria coined, that you can have a liberal democracy and you can have an illiberal democracy, you know, and I think we are going from a liberal democracy, we could go from a liberal democracy to an illiberal democracy, where the form of democracy is there, political parties, parliament, elections, but the substance of democracy is authoritarianism.
Is that how you see Modi, as an authoritarian leader?
That's what I see, the trends. I mean, I see the trends, you know. It seems to be maximum arrogance, minimum government.
Continually in your book, what I get is that you were reaching out to activists, you were reaching out to consultative groups, you were reaching out to various activists in the field, experts in the field, But people, that was criticized because a number of people said that, you know, you were bringing in too many NGOs,
I was opening
you were
up
talking
government,
to too many people.
I was opening up the government process, you know, and I would every day, you know, just 10 minutes from here, Ministry of Environment, and every day I'd have some public protest or the other, Meda Patkar or Uma Bharti or sometimes Greenpeace, some, you know, somebody or the other reflecting a point of view. Why shouldn't we listen to these points of view? Why should we always assume that the point of view which that the official establishment is throwing up is always the right point of view?
Right.
I challenge that wisdom.
Do you think Sonia Gandhi today represents the old guard of the Congress? Because Vijay Singh seemed to suggest that there's a clash between old and new guard.
Is a bogus argument. You know, I don't think so.
There's no clash happening between old guard and new guard.
I don't think it's a clash of civilizations or a clash of generations. No, I think this is highly exaggerated. I mean, you know, Mrs. Gandhi represents certain. I mean, she's 68, right? She's 1946. Yeah, she's 69 this year. Mr. Rahul Gandhi is 45. I mean, look. I mean, she's 23 years. I mean, naturally. I mean, I'm 61. Mr. Rahul Gandhi is 45. There's a difference in the way he and I think. I mean, there is age, the way his education, his age. There's a difference. But that's not a clash. I mean, I don't think that's a clash. It's just that, you know.
But are there people resisting change within the Congress?
No, I don't think so. I think right now everybody wants change. I think there's a yearning for change.
And what kind of Rahul Gandhi do you want to see? What kind of new Rahul Gandhi do you want to see?
I think Mr. Gandhi, the new Mr. Gandhi will certainly be far more visible, certainly far more accessible, certainly far more vocal, certainly far more peripatetic, you know, in the country. And I think he will lead from the front. I think because right now we need that leadership.
You know, in the book you speak very affectionately about Manmohan Singh, how you kept apprising him of what you were doing, how he brought you into the Planning Commission, he gave you the environment portfolio. Do you feel that Manmohan Singh has been badly judged?
I think so. I think history will be far kinder to him than the immediate media reports have been. I mean, he's quite an extraordinary individual, you know, both in terms of his academic distinction, in terms of his deep knowledge and erudition. And I know, for example, I've seen with my own eyes the respect which President Obama, Chancellor Merkel, Mr. Sarkozy, President Lula, President Zuma, I mean, just awesome to see how these people I mean, I've heard President Obama hug him, you know, Dr. Manmohan Singh, sort of, you know, going. You know, he's a very shy individual in public, and he was quite uncomfortable with President Obama
hugged Mr. Modi
hugging, and no, Mr. Modi hugged Mr. Obama. That was the difference. Here it was Mr. Obama who was hugging Dr. Manmohan Singh, and Dr. Manmohan Singh didn't have a pinstripe which said Manmohan, 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 and that was the big difference. And Manmohan Singh said, Dr. Obama said, "How are you doing, sir? You are my guru." I mean, I've heard this with my own eyes. I've heard it with my own ears. I've seen it with my own eyes. So the great respect with which he was heard, but I think he was. The media has been very unkind to him. The BJP didn't allow him to function from 2004. From the day he became Prime Minister, you know, senior leaders, Yashwant Sinha, for example, called him Shikhandi. You know, all sorts of names were called. He was not allowed to function. BJP never reconciled itself to the fact that they lost the 2004 election. I think history will be kinder to him because, after all, between 2004 and 2014, in spite of the so-called environmental roadblocks, GDP growth averaged 7.5% per year over a 10-year period, which was unprecedented in India's economic history. And it was economic growth accompanied by social transformation through these flagship programs.
If there is a fundamental flashpoint in the political economy today, do you think it is precisely this?
Yeah.
That
I would say environment, land issues. Environment, land, forests, you know, these are the issues.
Versus industry and the need to industrialize.
No doubt in my mind that's going to be there'll be many flashpoints, but this will be the flashpoint.
Do you see environment ever becoming a political issue, an electoral
issue? It is a political issue. It has to be a political issue. Otherwise, why would I spend so much time in political outreach, in political education, in political campaigning on environmental issues. It must be a political issue. It's not a technocratic issue. It must be dealt with politically. These choices are political choices that have to be made. And I mean, see, how did Kerala become Kerala in terms of education and health? Because education and health became issues of political discourse, political mobilization, political debate.
Jairam Ramesh, you've been candid, very informative, and as enlightening as ever. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks. That's it on Capital View for this episode. Join us again next week for another hot political topic on Capital View.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/etnow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at etnowlive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/etnow.